unbelievable how you make your plans in life and you end up somewhere else. I couldn't imagine possibly back in high school where life was all about sports and basketball. I was in Torah 3 years at varsity, and I was a typical Persian high school boy, headed to UCLA, and I got accepted right away. I had decent grades, and I did pretty well in the SAT, and I was going to become a doctor like my older brother. My older brother now is a doctor. He's an ophthalmologist. He lives in the Rabbi area. 1 year, one decision of going to Israel for the year after 12th grade. I wasn't going to go. My friends were pushing me to go for 1 year. And they said, we'll have a good time, it'll be great, you'll become independent. And it's, especially for Persians, it's probably good to detach a little bit from the family so you have your own space to grow. And I got close to one of my rabbis, and he convinced me to go to Israel for that year. That 1 year really changed my life. I had a lot of time to think about where I was headed in my life and what I want to do with my life. And the rest is history. Somehow 1 year became 2 years, 2 years became 3, and 14 years later, after yeshiva, I became a rabbi for a couple of years in New York. And for a number of reasons, I ended up moving back to LA 2 years ago after being gone for about 16 years. Now, do any of you girls know who Alan Dershowitz is? See, this is before your time. Alan Dershowitz was one of the main lawyers in the O.J. Simpson trial case. Girls heard of O.J. Simpson? It's a whole trial case about him killing his wife, and he got off the hook because he had the top lawyers. And this Alan Dershowitz, he's a Harvard professor, and he gives a course called Comparative Religion. And in this course, as he was speaking one time, one of the students raised her hand, and she said, "Professor, religion is a way of relating to God. Shouldn't we first analyze and assess to see how God did in creating this world? Before we compare all the religions, Catholicism to Buddhism to Judaism to all the different isms, first we have to see how God did in creating this world." And he said it's a good point. In fact, that's what they did. They looked around the world. They looked at all the beauty in the world. The Niagara Falls, the sunset, the sunrise, the flowers. There's a lot of beauty in the world. And they also looked at all the pain and suffering in the world. The diseases, the sicknesses, the tremendous amount of poverty and suffering throughout the world. So he wrote a book called The Vanishing American Jew. In this book, he talks about this incident and how they went about to assess God. In the book, if you don't believe me, take a look at the book, Vanishing American Jew. They don't give God an A, the great A, for doing a wonderful job creating this world. They don't give him an F for a horrible job. They give him a B-. God got a B- in his job of creating this world. Now, I would probably give him a D for being very dumb. Why? Although he's a very important and prestigious lawyer. For example, if I tell you that this instrument, this toothpick, is a horrible toothpick. Every time I try to put it in between my teeth, it just doesn't fit in. And sometimes there's this black ink that goes out all over my teeth. The Bic did a horrible job with creating this toothpick. You would say that's foolish, that's ridiculous. Why? Before you judge Bic and how they did in creating this utensil, you have to have a pretty clear understanding of what their purpose was in this utensil. This, as a toothpick, this would be a horrible toothpick. But as a writing utensil, it's a wonderful writing utensil. Before you go ahead and you judge God and how He did in creating this world, you have to have a pretty clear understanding of what man's role and purpose is in this world. What does God want from us? This is a question that, it's fascinating yet so sad that this question is probably the most not probably, this is the most important question in life that one must have a clear answer to. And yet the vast majority of people just go through life without giving it much thought. Why did God create this world? It's such a elaborate, sophisticated world. There's a tremendous amount of depth in this world. And yet, people don't give it much thought. What are we doing here? What does Hashem want from us? What does God want from us? What was His intention? And why did He create this world? If you walk into any company, you go to Manhattan, you go to one of these very prestigious firms, law firms in LA, one of the first things you'll see generally in the company, that there's a mission statement. Somewhere in the company, either on the walls or somewhere written, there's a mission statement. What's a mission statement? Mission statement is in one sentence summing up the goal and the aspirations of this company and of all the workers. What's our purpose? What's our objective? What's our goals? Now, similarly, if you play, I play with my kids board games on Shabbat, since it's quality family time for us, and my kids love it that I sit and play with them for hours on end, different board games. So they buy every so often, every couple of weeks, every month or two, a new game. Monopoly deal, and you go through all the different games, and I'm learning one by one how to play these games. And one of the first questions when you sit down to play a board game, you've never seen the board game. What's the first question you ask? How do you play? No? It's the most basic question you should ask. This is a new game. How do you play the game? If you don't know how to play the game, if you don't know the rules, it's pretty boring. Probably throw down the cards after a minute or two, and that's it. You go on to something else. Now, if this is a question that we ask about a board game, about a card game, isn't it a fair question to ask ourselves about this world? Such a sophisticated world. You take a look at the doctors. My brother's a doctor, and I wanted to become a doctor. I know a little bit about the sciences. And you take a look at anything, let's focus on the body, the human body. The different parts in the body. You don't have one doctor that specializes in the entire body. You have specialties. The doctors that specialize, each part of the body is a different doctor. Why? Because each part is so complex, you can't have one doctor for the entire body. You have to have one doctor who spends years, 14, 15, 16 years, to master that part of the body. Why? Because the body is so complex. You take a look at the eye, you take a look at the brain and how the body functions. It's mind-boggling, it's incredible. Now God, who created all this, He takes us and He puts us in the center of the universe, that you are the main purpose of this world. Now go on and live your life. Shouldn't it behoove us to ask what He wants from us? Most people go through life, they think life is about going to school, you get your degree, you get your job, you make your money. You make the money to be able to buy food, to be able to buy a nice house, a nice car. You eat, you drink, you go to sleep, and next morning you wake up, same thing. You go to work, make money, you eat, you drink, you go to sleep. And you look forward to the 2-week vacation in the summer where you'll be able to relax and release your stress from all the hard work and the pressures throughout the year. And after the 2 weeks, this vicious cycle continues again. People go back to work brainlessly, on autopilot, not really thinking about their lives, just going, making money, getting sucked into this world, and living the life, living the American dream, without giving much thought to what are we doing here, what really is the ultimate goal. Is this what God wanted of us? Such a mundane purpose in life, such an ordinary purpose, to come into this world just to make money, to live it up, enjoy, and have good times and bad times. The suffering is probably much more than the good times. I don't think everybody wakes up most people wake up in the morning and they just have this exhilarating feeling of wow, life is great, life is awesome. Most people have very difficult times in life. And as you get older, you should enjoy your teenage years. Life gets harder and harder. You get married, and you have the stress of producing a livelihood and taking care of the children and making sure the children are going in the right path. It's very, very difficult and very challenging. Now, this question is of utmost importance to answer, because the great psychologists all say that a man without purpose cannot and will not be happy. If you don't have a clear purpose in life of what your goal is, you will be destined to be miserable and depressed in life. I'm going to discuss more some of the statistics in America. You talk about the millions and millions of dosages of antidepressants being given out in America. Millions of people that are just, what's the point of it all? Some people believe that our purpose in life is to enjoy, to eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we shall die. The purpose of life is to get as much pleasure and enjoyment as you possibly can, in whatever shape and form of pleasure and enjoyment you possibly can. That is the goal of life, to enjoy. And there was a popular mantra actually in the 1960s that went as follows: if it feels good, do it. That was the mentality in America in the 1960s. If it feels good, jump in. You know what Albert Einstein had to say about that? The famous Albert Einstein commented on this: this is a life ideal appropriate for a herd of swine. That's what he said. That goal, that aspiration, according to Albert Einstein, is for a bunch of animals. If the goal of life is just to get pleasure and to maximize the pleasure, how are we different than animals? Animals also have an instinctive drive for eating and for enjoying themselves and chilling under the shade and relaxing, right? They also like to procreate. How are we different than the animals? There must have been a much more lofty goal that God had in mind for us human beings. And if you look at a world, this world, especially America, has become a world pursuing pleasures. I don't think there has been any society in history that pursued pleasure more than the American nation. Every advertisement, every billboard, every commercial is preaching that you need this enjoyment, you need this pleasure to be happy in life. If you don't have it, you're going to be unhappy in life. But if you get it, that's it, then you'll be there. If you get that vacation, you're in the Bahamas, you're relaxing in the Bahamas, in the beach, that's the ultimate pleasure. That's happiness. You made it in life. And every commercial and every advertisement is preaching the same thing. And this has a tremendous effect on us. I like to say, you know, a 30-second commercial of the Super Bowl. I know you girls probably don't follow football so much, but how much does a 30-second commercial of the Super Bowl cost? How much? 30 seconds costs $4.5 million. Now, if you break this down, $4.5 million, you have to think these companies are crazy. What can you possibly get through to people's minds in 30 seconds? The commercial that you see for 30 seconds. Psychologists and all the researchers have done their research. And if Coke is willing to spend for 30 seconds $4.5 million, that means the effect that it has on your psyche, on your brain, is such a powerful message and such a powerful effect that they're willing to shell out $4.5 million for it. $4.5 million is not little money. $100,000 is a nice, fancy, top-of-the-line Mercedes. Right? For $1 million, you can put down payment for a very nice house. $4.5 million is a fancy mansion. Are they out of their minds? For 30-second commercial to spend $4.5 million? Apparently, they have such an effect in the 210 million people that are watching the Super Bowl. In 30 seconds, they get through your brain and have such an effect on your brain that it's worth it to spend $4.5 million. And the next time that you go to the store and you're deciding between Coke and Pepsi, the subconscious will tell you, go for the Coke, because you saw that funny commercial, or you saw that sick commercial that had something perverted and connected to it, and you'll go for the Coke. That's the effect the billboards and the commercials have on us. And it's inevitable for us not to feel that part of the goal in life is to get as much pleasure as you possibly can. To get the nice fancy car, And every commercial is advertising these things. The fancy vacation, the nice house. Find me one commercial that doesn't have it. Find me one commercial that doesn't have a good-looking person in it, advertising for it. One beer commercial that doesn't have someone attractive associated with it, to play with your brain in the subconscious. It's unbelievable. And they spend so much money. And by the way, $4.5 million is only for the commercial. 30 seconds, one time. How many times did Coke play the same commercial over again in the Super Bowl? You do it 5 times, it's already over $20 million. And $4.5 million is only just for the commercial to play it on TV. How much does it cost them to make the commercial and to pay for the people who are producing it? You're talking about $5-6 million. It's crazy. It's mind-boggling what an effect it has on us. And that's the society. You look at a society, you think, are we happy in this society? Anyone back 67 years ago, if you told them what pleasures we would have, what comforts we would have. When back in Iran, my father, his dream was as a kid, he always told me that his dream was to have his own shower, because they had to walk every Friday, several blocks and miles to get to the bathhouse, to be able to take a shower once a week. And his dream as a kid was to have a shower, to have running water, to have bathrooms, to have cell phones, all these other gadgets that we have, all the luxuries that we have, cars. Back in the 1930s, 40s, Dr. Abraham J. Tursky is a great psychologist. He says that he used to travel from New York to LA. It took him 60 hours. 60 hours by train. Look at the luxuries we have. Are we happy in this society? Well, you take a look around the world, and especially in America, you see how contrary to happiness their lives are. I'll quote to you some facts. I hope you forgive me. Generally, I don't like saying some of these things which are so inappropriate almost. But I feel that people have to realize what kind of world we're living in. This is from Michael Snyder. These 100 facts about the moral collapse of America that are almost too crazy to believe. I'm going to share with you a few of them. He starts off about this golden state of country of America, approximately 1/3 of the entire population of the United States. Listen to this carefully. There's 110 million people. Currently has sexually transmitted diseases, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. People are living like animals. People have no control, no self-control whatsoever. It costs our nation approximately $16 billion a year to treat our sexually transmitted diseases. $16 billion. People living their lives like a bunch of animals. The United States has the highest teen pregnancy rate in the entire industrialized world. Teen pregnancies. Things that back 30, 40 years ago were unimaginable. Can you imagine such a thing happening back, ask your parents and grandparents, back in Iran, back in any other country? What's happened to the world? It's a crazy world. Estimated that 1 out of every 4 girls will be sexually abused before they become adults. A bunch of sick people in this society. An astounding 30% of all internet traffic now goes to adult websites. People that have no control whatsoever. No control. They're living their lives like a bunch of animals. It has been estimated that 89% of all pornography is produced in the United States. America, what it stands for, immorality. The name of the game now has become in America, immorality. You want to sum up America in one line, is immorality. The marriage rate in the United States has fallen to an all-time low. Who gets married anymore? Back in my days, I wasn't religious growing up, and even when I was in my teenage years, we used to watch a lot of these shows. Most of the shows that we watched, if you think about, I don't know if you girls have seen the shows back in the 90s, they're all shows that were centered on the family life, and things went on around the family life. You had Full House, you had Family Matters, you had, I hear Simpsons is still around and it's got a little bit more perverted. And you had all the shows with the family life, and things went on around the family life. You fast forward now, I don't watch TV anymore, but I did a lot of outreach in New York, from what the guys tell me, is that the shows now, there's a show called, I forgot the name, the family that has 2 fathers? Modern Family, thank you. Modern Family. Now that's what else? What other shows are there? The single life, they're living the dream of the single, being single, and living the Manhattan life, and going around clubbing and sleeping around. This is what the shows have become. Now, all-time low, marriages. No one gets married anymore. Why should I get married? Right now, it's sitting at a yearly rate of 6.8 marriages per 1,000 people. Can you imagine? 6.8, that's close to 7 people out of 1,000 getting married. The rest don't get married. Why should I get married? Why should I have the headaches of having children? To deal with a family, to deal with a spouse? I'll move in with my girlfriend, I'll move in with my boyfriend, and after a couple of years we get sick and tired of each other, move on. It's craziness. The whole entire family structure has totally obliterated. The United States, more than half of couples move in together before they get married. America has the highest divorce rate in the world by a good margin. Highest divorce rates. In LA, divorce rates are bordering on 60%. Now that sounds pretty depressing. You go into a marriage, you have more than 1 out of 2 chances, 50%, more than 50, 1 out of 2. Out of every couple that gets married that you see, hopefully not in your families, 1 out of 2 ends up in a divorce. America has the highest percentage of one-person households in the entire planet. Single mothers, single fathers raising their children by themselves. 100 years ago, 4.5 people were living in the average U.S. household. You had 4.5 people in average. And now, the average is about 2.5. You knocked out at least 2 children per family, 2.5. For women under the age of 30 in the United States, more than half of all babies are being born out of wedlock. At this point, approximately 1 out of every 3 children in the United States lives in a home without a father. How can you have a normal, healthy adult if you don't have a father figure in your life? You ask any non-religious, non-Jewish even, psychologist and psychotherapist, what do you need for a person to grow up as a healthy adult? They'll tell you it's very, very crucial to have the love of both parents, for them to be there for the child, to have a healthy family structure. It's very difficult for an adult person to grow up and be a healthy adult if you don't have a healthy upraising. And now, look what's happened to America. In a massacre that's almost unspeakable, more than 56 million American babies have been slaughtered in this country since Roe versus Wade. You can't imagine what the statistics are about abortions in America. Here's, I'll share with you one. Approximately 3,000 Americans lost their lives as a result of the destruction of the World Trade Center. 9/11, 3,000 people died. Horrible tragedy. Every single day, more than 3,000 American babies are killed by abortion when you include all forms of abortion. Can you imagine such a thing? We make such a big deal about the World Trade Center, about 9/11. Yet every day, these abortions are happening, and people are totally okay with it. Nothing wrong, especially in the state of America, in California. A bunch of Democrats, no problem. You do what you want, as long as you're not hurting someone else. It's your baby, it's your life. Kill, no problem. The Department of Homeland Security report was released in January 2012. And it says that if you're anti-abortion, listen to this, you're a potential terrorist. If you're against abortion, you're probably part of the terrorists. Planned Parenthood founder Margaret Sanger once said the following: the most merciful thing that a family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. This is the perspective, the warped, crooked perspective of some of the Americans. America has the highest incarceration rates, the largest total prison population in the entire world by a wide margin. This world, this land of being free, you have freedom to do as you want, as you please. Look at the prisons, they're stocked. America today, there's 16 million people that abuse alcohol, and there are 22 million people that use illegal drugs. It's unbelievable how the numbers have skyrocketed. How many people are addicted to drugs and alcohol and all sorts of other addictions, which is unimaginable, especially with the access to the internet. Now it's so easy for people to develop, to get addicted to many, many different forms of addiction. It's scary, and any form of addiction sucks you out of your ability to live normally. I had a bunch of 1 or 2 guys in New York that dealt with, they had a major problem with gambling. They would go, it's so easy. They go online and they have these sports games and they would bid on it. $50 here, $100 there, and it's so easy to get sucked in. My wife worked in one of the hospitals in New York. She had these secretaries that were co-workers there, and they would constantly go and they would buy things online. They would complain to my wife a lot of times that they didn't have money. So my wife would ask them, so why are you spending all this money? If you don't have the money, why are you going shopping? There's such a thing as shopahalizim, which means that you're addicted to shopping. It's such a thing. Going online, just clicking, just buying something, because you're addicted to it. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, doctors in the United States write more than 250 million prescriptions for antidepressants each year. Can you imagine 250 million prescriptions? Antidepressants. People are so down and depressed. You would think that they have all the luxuries, they have all the pleasures. They have all the pleasures in the world, especially in LA. It's a bit different than where I lived in Queens for a number of years, for about 14 years. LA is the capital, especially I live in Pico Robertson, near Beverly Hills. The capital of Gashmiut, which means of the physical pleasures. People indulging. You would think they'd be so happy, they have it all. They have the nicest cars, the nicest houses, and yet the people are so down and depressed. As a rabbi, I'm telling you, I meet a lot of people, and as a rabbi, you get the information of what it seems to the naked eye as like they're living the American dream, living the life. Once they start pouring out their lives to you, like, wow. I remember one of the first times when I was the rabbi in Plainview, New York, there was one of the richest guy in my shul, multi-millionaire. He asked to speak to me after I was there for a year or two, and things started coming out, and I couldn't believe it. I really thought that this guy had the best life in the world. I was convinced he had the best life in the world. I learned a very important lesson. There's much more than meets the eye, and all the problems started coming out with his wife and his relationship and his children and all the different issues. Like, wow, there's much more to life than having money. Children in the United States are 3 times more likely to be prescribed antidepressants than children in Europe are. America has the highest rate of illegal drug use on the entire planet. And the list just goes on. Heroin has doubled since 2002, and the overdose, related overdose deaths in heroin usage has risen 84% since 2010. 84%. People dropping dead left and right from overdosing on drugs. And then it goes on. And you ask yourself, like, what gives? What's happening to the world? Why the world has hit rock bottom. You can't imagine the world getting any more crazy than this and worse off than this. People think that striking it rich, and like I said before, living the life here, is the goal, is the purpose of life. This is what God intended, to enjoy life. I had a boy, when I was doing outreach in Great Neck, he asked to speak to me. He was 24 years old. His father's very wealthy in Manhattan, had a lot of buildings, different buildings, and he himself, the boy, got involved in a lot of building buildings and flipping them and selling them. He himself is worth a good $10-15 million. He's driving a top-of-the-line Mercedes. I don't know how much these things cost. Top of the line. And he has, he's a good-looking guy. Very good-looking guy. He has it all. Beautiful house, the beautiful car. He has a beautiful girlfriend, and he's telling me about his life. Rabbi, I don't know what the point of it all is. What is the point of all this? Yeah, you go, the pleasures, you have fun, and he's going around, he's having a lot of fun. And he's going to the parties, and he's going to the clubs, and he's living it up. Drinking and alcohol, and all the things that America preaches that is so fun. And he turns to me and he says, I don't get what the point of it all is. And the boy was pretty depressed, he was pretty down. To me, it was a shocker. How could it be a guy who has everything under the sun that he could be down and depressed? How is that possible? You have everything that every boy dreams that they could have in America. And everyone thinks that if they had it, they'll be so happy. Yet, this boy has it all, but for some odd reason, he doesn't get it. What's the point of these pleasures? The pleasures are also temporary. They come, they're fleeting. Any physical pleasure you think about comes and goes. Name me one physical pleasure that actually lasts and you feel a sense of satisfaction. An hour later, 2 hours later, a day later, it's fleeting, it's gone. I had another guy when I lived in Plainview. This man, whenever we drive there, I lived in Queens, and every Friday for Shabbat, I had a small little apartment where I was the rabbi. I couldn't move to the community. It's about a 25-minute, 30-minute drive. Every Friday we would, schlep all the cholent and the food and I would say polo choresh, but my wife is American, so I don't have polo choresh. But all the other different types of foods, they put in the car and drive. You girls are all Persian? Or not all? Yeah. Make sure I'm saying polo choresh. Everyone knows what I'm talking. So we get to Plainview. I had to unpack the car. And I tried to make my business. I give a bunch of lectures on parenting, and one of the things that I stress more than anything else is the father-son relationship and mother-daughter relationship is spending quality time with your kids. Part of spending quality time is playing sports with them. I was always big into sports, and it's very important for kids, and it's healthy to be into sports. So whenever we go to Plainview, open field, a lot of the houses are pretty big there. We played in front of the house. I played football with them. The neighbors across the street had a basketball court, a small little one in front of the house. I played basketball. Whenever I played every Friday, there was a man sitting about 200-300 feet down in one of the houses that was facing us, and he would just sit there and watch us. A man in his 60s, and I always wondered, what is this guy? He's a total B-card. He has nothing to do with his life. He's just sitting there and just watching us. One Shabbat afternoon, when I was walking to synagogue, he approaches me and he says, "Oh, Rabbi, hi." He introduced himself. He asked me what I do. I said, "I'm the rabbi in the synagogue here." So he said, "I'm very impressed with you. You play every Friday, you come play sports with your kids, spend quality time. And you're not nasty like the Indian family that lives in that house over there. The guy's always screaming at his kids. You're a very good father." And then he started telling me about his life. He's a Christian guy. And he said, "Rabbi, you should know that I had the best time of my life when I was younger. I went around sleeping, and I used to have fun and eating in restaurants and parties and drinking." He's in his 60s. He says, "Rabbi, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to get settled down. I was in a relationship with several times, moved in with each other, moved out, separated. I never had a child. I never had a family. And I'm looking back in my life, and I'm thinking to myself, what was the point of it all?" He says, "You guys have what's real. You have a family, you have a focus on the family, you have a purpose in life, you have meaning, you have God in your life." And I was just standing there. I didn't know what to answer to this guy. A man in his 60s, a Christian guy, telling me that his whole life was wasted. What was the point of it all? Now in his 60s, he's sitting in front of his house, counting his days till he passes away. That's life. That was the goal of life. To come, you have your fun, your parties, and he made his money. That was it. There has to be something more real. It doesn't make sense. The reasons I ended up staying in the track of yeshiva and religion. I became religious at some point in high school.